start with the actual content, with the actual subject. So as I already stated, today we talk about PayPal. And why? Because I have seen a lot of content, not only here on this platform, as well on other platforms, that a lot of investors and people who presenting their opinion about stocks and other securities, they are very bullish on it. You know, they communicate a lot of times. Yeah, it's a steal. You know, the price is so low, and it's a very reliable and solid service, and everyone is using it, and therefore you can easily make money out of it. You know, and it can be right. You know, so actually I'm as well using PayPal by my own. You know, and not very rarely. You know, I use it a lot, and I'm a huge fan actually. And I by myself thought about investing in the stock, you know, and I stumbled above some signal. Always interpret something in a positive or in a more negative way, let's say it like this. And for me, a few more negative touched aspects have been existed, or which others very likely promote as very positive ones. Yeah, and there is no right or wrong again, you know. So only the future will show if the assumptions of them or of me or of whoever are correct or not, you know. And as I mentioned, it's just an opinion, and that is what the business and the investment as well makes very interesting. There are a lot of different opinions existing, even if we talk about just a single stock just in a single moment, let's say it like this, like PayPal. Okay, so for today, I prepared a few different parameters which I want to discuss quite compactly, so it will not take too much time, I guess. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So now I should share another screen, and to give you a little bit more a good structure about what I'm talking, I've decided to prepare as well some slides for you, even if they are quite easily designed. Give me a small sip, please, so I can go on with the talk. Okay, and the first aspect we want to talk about today is the gap to the ATH, to the all-time high, you know. And yeah, now you think, okay, what is he talking about? Yeah, of course, that's very likely the major aspect why it is a big aspect why it has so much spotlight for a lot of potential investors or investors out there, because you can just check I will show you. You can just easily check the chart. Give me a moment. So now you should see it. So you can check the chart, and when you compare today's price with the price in the past three years, for instance, you will see, oh yeah, like a lot of other stocks out there, in 2021 they had a huge favorable dynamic which they lived through with the stock on the market, like a lot of other, especially IT firms, you know, which get boosted by Corona and by this somehow yo-yo flip back effect, you know, which was heating up the oven again. And you can see here, we talked about roughly $308, and now the chart is on something like, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's roughly $62, $63 at the moment, you know. So there's a big gap, obviously, between $60 and $300, so almost 5 times the price now of today. And in my opinion, a lot of people, just because of this fact, think, oh man, that there needs to be some kind of a rebound, you know. I mean, of course, we don't need to reach the old heights, but based on this already, there's so much potential left in this stock, in this company, that I definitely easily can make 10, 20, 50, whatever % out of it. And I actually don't, in my perspective, I don't share this opinion, you know. I think there's no guarantee for coming back just because there was a huge all-time high, and that is what you should never forget, especially when we talk nowadays about not only this favorable conditions in terms of Corona, which had somehow an IT boost which comes with it, but as well when we talk about the interest rates, which is very likely a way more dominant factor in this connection. You know, I mean, it's a whole nother level to and a whole nother world basically to talk about companies which are experienced the market 1.5 years ago and or let's say 2 years ago, 1.5, 2 years ago, with an interest rate almost zero, yeah, and in which money was very, very cheap, and now it's very, very, or quite relatively expensive compared to the past days. And this is what you always need to keep in mind, in my opinion. Just that's my view on this. That's such a heavy present aspect that interest rates are different and all-time highs can be extremely different. There's a reason why a lot of companies, a lot of IT stocks, for instance, had a quite high rating and still they have just a small piece of that inside again of this evaluation, of this former evaluation, because yeah, it was just under very different circumstances. So therefore, just to show it to you quickly, the first point is gap to all-time high is for me something what you somehow need to relevate in your mind. Just my personal view, how I do this. I think about, okay, it's a different environment. It's we are talking about different interest rates, and this is something what is not so pushing the PayPal stock anymore. Yeah, based on my view. Okay, let's go to the next aspect, and the next aspect is the midterm stable price. So I think roughly, let's step again into the price chart, and as you can see, maybe I need to zoom out a little bit. Hope it's working. Okay, it's not working so great, but as you can see in the last 6 months, it's very, very stable. Basically, it's stable since roughly, I think, 1.5 years. So yeah, let's say March of 2022. So yeah, roughly 1.5 years, the prices of this stock is quite stable. And some people think, there needs to be some impulse, and then it just launches the rocket and it goes high, and it goes sky high basically, you know. It can't be all the time stable or whatever, you know, and it's just a matter of time, especially in the combination when we think about the gap to the all-time high, that there's so much potential. And as well, this is something what you sometimes call in the empiric way, as far as I know, the return to the mean, or mean reversion, you know. And that you always, if there's this volatility, that you always somehow go back to the mid, you know, to the mean. And this might exist, or I'm not an expert in this. This might exist when we talk about different indexes, you know, indices, about different, like the S&P, like the emerging markets, whatever. So a bunch of different stocks. But when we just talk about a single one like PayPal, there is no guarantee this kind of mean reversion is existing, and it somehow will go up again. You know, it can be stable here for years basically, and there is no need that it gets changed. You know, there's even if a stronger impulse of the real economy can have an effect, it doesn't need to has an effect on the real economy. It doesn't need to have an effect on the stock itself. So as well, this, when we talk about the midterm stable price and the potential because of this, that just somehow it needs to cross it and go up somehow, in my opinion, just on my view, there's no guarantee for this mean reversion when we talk about the single stock and when we talk about PayPal. Okay, the third point of 6 listed, which we discussed today, guys, is a large customer base as a potential for a lot of future profitability, earnings, sales, and in general expansion. No matter if we talk about in services and products, yeah, regionally, whatever. And yeah, it's right. So I checked their financial results. Let me go back again. And when we go to the financial results, I hope you can see my screen. Now we have roughly total active accounts here it's stated at the latest Q2 2023 financial results. You can see we have roughly 430 million active accounts, which is incredible and amazing and a huge deal to achieve this kind of level of amount of accounts. But this doesn't mean that you can make a use out of it in the future for other stuff, you know? It's like, okay, of course, some companies like Apple, like Google or whatever, they just expand their portfolio and somehow everything what they touch or a lot of stuff what they're touching, they transfer it into gold, you know? And a lot of their approaches are going out quite successfully. But this doesn't mean that just because you have a strong account base, customer base, that every company can utilize this base, you know. And that's the same for PayPal, you know. That's the real deal, the real challenge, you know. And if it would be so easy, maybe they would already accomplish something there, you know. I mean, of course, I think they tried to expand a little bit more in this crypto business or whatever. So it's not that easy to just, okay, we have 400 million accounts, which is 5%, I think, of the population of the world, you know. And now everything what we will launch will be have a very strong positive outcome. There is no guarantee in my point of view, and therefore this as well is an aspect which should get considered as, for me, from my point of view, questionable. You know, potential is there, yeah, it's valid, and this is something which is already some kind of a mode, but it's not a true mode in my opinion, and it's not something which guarantees you some proper future outcome just because you have this large customer base. So, next point is the value adding an understandable product or service. Yeah, and as I already mentioned, yeah, this product or the services of the financial services of PayPal are as well, for me at least, adding a lot of value. You know, it's somehow simple and it makes sense what you're doing with it, but on the same time, and I already stated this word, what is with the moat? What is with the defense of this business, you know, against other competitors, for instance, or different developments in the future in the sector? And I think there is actually not so much defense, you know, so much distance and range between other competitors because their product is so special, you know. The moat maybe is existing on this huge customer base, what we talked about before, but it's not that easy to defend this business, you know. And if other players like Apple, like Google, yeah, wants to or join more heavily this business, yeah, or even some companies which are not listed on the stock market, yeah, there is definitely the chance that they enter the position of PayPal, in my opinion, yeah, and that is something what you should not take for granted, basically. So I, in my opinion, when I just imagine, okay, the development in the world is going so quickly, so heavily, and what was relevant 10 or 20 years ago is not even in our minds anymore today. And when I think, okay, that would be somehow a better solution for payment or just other options which are very convenient to use, yeah, and somehow you reach out to them and you get used to them, and maybe you have even some favorable conditions by this. Just whatever you get 1 or 2% discount when you buy over through their service instead of PayPal service, for instance. I, as at least, would not be emotional about this company. I would not be emotional about the product or the services, and I would very quickly switch as long as it's covered by a lot of stores for sure, because otherwise obviously it's not that convenient anymore as a user. It's not that user friendly anymore. But as soon as these conditions are solid and fixated and somehow provided, I would not think too much about switching to another platform. Yeah, and it's not an emotional business, it's not. I'm not an iPhone owner, honestly, but I guess some people are emotional about Apple products, about the iPhone, and they are proud, and of course they can be proud on something what they worked for heavily, for instance, and that they have some kind of high-tech, top-notch product, for instance, But this feeling, at least I will never have about PayPal. And therefore, when I think, okay, someone else is stepping in the position of PayPal in the future, I will not miss PayPal, I personally. And I will not think, oh man, that was the best payment service provider I ever experienced or whatever. I would just go on, basically, because it's simply not emotional. And therefore, in my opinion, there's not a true mode. There's not a true defending aspect about this business. If we talk besides the aspect of the strong customer base, which is definitely existing, but yeah, of course that they are listed in a lot of stores, for instance. Yeah, that is something what we should not put on the side. But the product itself, the service itself, that is nothing, in my opinion, which is too complicated to copy, or that anyone else can't step into their position and just tame the PayPal customers away. Okay, next aspect is new CEO. So there of course it's already secured that the existing CEO will leave at the end of this business year or step back out of his CEO position. And for instance, as you can see here, let me share this quickly as well for you. An article on a news site. PayPal closes in on new CEO. So you can see here the existing one, Dan Schulman, and yeah, he will retire end of this year, as I mentioned already. And so now the discussions going in a more final stage about who will be the substitute, the successor for Mr. Schulman. And some people think, because of a new CEO, that will be a new tailwind, that will definitely create a new momentum and support for the company, for the stock, will bring new color, new flavor to the business, and maybe new ideas how PayPal will operate in the future. And maybe they are right, maybe but they are wrong. And for me, that's a quite short aspect, but this one as well gets stated and mentioned by a lot of other others, for instance, content creators on YouTube, that this potential is existing, and we will see what will be the outcome. In my opinion, it can be possible that the outcome will be positive, but it can be as well it could not occur or get realized, and it stays as it is, or it's getting even worse. Let's say it like this. Yeah. So, for me, this fifth aspect is as well something which is not relevant. It's simply not relevant for me. When I evaluate by myself, just on the soft surface, and think about PayPal, is it a catch for me or not? The new CEO aspect is something what I would not evaluate here or put in my evaluation and rate somehow or whatever, because as I mentioned, we don't even know who will be this person. If there would be some kind of a legend in the financial service sector, and PayPal already knew that they will take him and put him on the CEO seat position from 2024, beginning of 2024, Okay, that would be maybe differently, but as far as I know, the new one is not fixated. And even if they would knew that they already would know that the new one is existing, you will definitely don't know the outcome of this. And the last aspect, which is of course as well something what is highly understandable, is the role model comparison to Meta, to the Meta stock, the old Facebook. So look guys, I understand this aspect. I understand that PayPal gets hit hard in the past. Let me share here again my screen. And Meta get hit hard in the past, yeah. But basically, when you compare the pricing, the value of Meta, just my opinion, the value of Meta to PayPal on the lowest point in terms of pricing, I think we really talk about a whole nother level, you know. So that's just my personal opinion. So I just decided to focus now three key KPIs in my opinion. So the sales price factor and the price sales ratio, the earnings ratio, the earnings ratio, the price earnings ratio. Sorry guys, man, it's getting incredibly hot here, and I definitely need to find other solution for streaming in the future. So I will for sure. Don't worry, guys. So price sales ratio, price earnings ratio, and price free cash flow ratio, price free FCF ratio. And when we just compare on the lowest point, so we start with PayPal. Now it's quite heavily low, so it's on a evaluation price sales of 2.4 roughly. When we talk about Meta, okay, now of course it's higher, but when we talk about Meta at one of the lowest points in November last year, 2022, it was 2.2. So again, PayPal 2.4 and Meta 2.2. So when we talk about the sales side, okay, it's quite similar to each other. There's the difference is not that huge. But let's go on when we talk about the earnings. Yeah. So what is the price earnings ratio? So nowadays it's 17.6, 17.7. Let's say 17.7. Yeah, which is actually not bad in my opinion. It's a very solid price earnings ratio, and definitely something what as a company or as a stock, when you evaluate this, which you don't need to hide somehow, you know. That's definitely a plus in my opinion. Of course, compared on the sector, on the stage of the company, and compared of other KPIs, but in general, that's definitely something not negative in my opinion. Even if something, I think it's definitely a little bit more positive. But when we step now, so 17.7, when we compare now the Meta price earnings, roughly in November last year, it was 8.6. So 77 to 8.6. So again, yes, of course, you see the potential that Meta had a great development in the past months, in the past roughly half year, 3 quarters, and you can think, PayPal can maybe have in the future the same history like now Meta, but the at least when we take a look at the price earnings ratio and compare 77 from PayPal to 8.6 to Meta, that's almost double the number. And that's, I mean, Meta was obviously somehow a steal, obviously, but everyone was thinking, I think, it's old economy, and somehow the potential and the fire is going down somehow, and the oven gets switched off, you know, and the potential is not that existing anymore, and they're investing too much money in the metaverse, whatever. And yes, and but of course now it's easy to tell, it was an easy decision, you know, it's simple to communicate this now. But compared just on the numbers, 8.6 to 17.7, that's a whole nother level. And now we talk about the price free cash flow ratio. And as you can see here, I hope you can see at least see it here. So it's currently at 20.6, guys, which is, again, I think not that bad, but as well, compare it to Meta on the lowest point, and it is 9.3. So 20.6 to 9.3. Yeah. And again, here's a huge difference between the PayPal pricing now and the ratio to the free cash flow on the lowest point to the Meta point, the Meta share, to the Meta stock, when the Meta stock was located on the lowest pricing in the past months, yeah, and years. And so again, no matter if we talk about or fetch this up together, when we talk about this Meta role model comparison, it is again a huge difference between Meta in November last year and PayPal today. Yeah, no matter if we talk just these three rough KPIs, price sales ratio, price earnings ratio, and price free cash flow ratio. Yeah, price sales is a little bit more on the same level, a little bit more equal, but the other, in my opinion, are definitely on another level, and this has some impact on the potential, let's say it like this, and on the saying that you easily can tell, okay, it's a no-brainer. PayPal is a no-brainer. Yeah, and of course, I know that they're buying back a lot of shares, PayPal. Yeah, I know that they have a huge amount of cash in their bank accounts, and who knows how they will invest this in the future or what they can make out of it. But as well, this something doesn't have to mean anything too positive, I at least, but I'm a little bit more growth orientated as an investor. For me, it's not the best sign if someone has too much cash, and because of course you can always think about, okay, why they have so much cash? Can't they invest it somehow in some alternatives or some new projects with more potential, a little bit more with more outcome? Is this not possible at the moment? Is this not an option? And yeah, maybe that's an aspect as well for PayPal. But yeah, let's fetch together. I mean, when we talk about these matrices, these parameters, which a lot of times get stated as very favorable and people make very positive out of it. We talk about the gap to the all-time high, the midterm stable price, the large customer base, the value adding and understandable price and product and services, the new CEO, and as well the role model comparison to Meta, and that they can that PayPal potentially can step in the footprints of Meta in the future. I think all of them is something what at least is somehow questionable. Yeah, and in my opinion, you should really do by your own an evaluation. I mean, honestly, I think because so many people are interested in the stock at the moment, I can think about this that. When I need to make for myself an assumption, I would think that I expect that on the short, on the midterm, the stock will raise. I expect it at least, because so many people are interested, and if the economy, of course, keeps solid, and stays strong. But then I think on the short, on the midterm, PayPal has definitely some potential, yeah. But at the same time, I don't think, at least how it is at the moment, that it's the best stock out there, especially on the long term. And I always, by myself as an investor, I think about, okay, is there not an alternative, another opportunity where I can invest better my money? Yeah. And I always, as an investor, I try to select very heavily. I don't invest in too many stocks at the same time, So I try to really separate from my point of view, from my perspective, the best to the worst, or even the better ones to the best ones, And I just want really the ones which I evaluate the best for me, for my profile, for my level of risk acceptance. And I basically would do this as well when I would be, in differently shaped, a little bit less risk. I would have a little bit less risk acceptance, for instance, And so when we come back to PayPal, For me, I've decided it's not a buy. I use it, I love to use it, and I hope it will stay longer just because it feels convenient now. I'm used to it, whatever, and it's simple. But who knows if this will be the same case in the future. And for sure, I personally separate the stock to the company. I try to make my own opinion when I get input and content or read content on websites, read financial results, whatever. I try to make my own, get my own opinion, make my own evaluation, and somehow, yeah, calculate the value for the stock. And for me, it's just my result of my evaluation is that it's priced fairly. It's not the biggest steal, it's not the biggest deal, it's not the biggest discount for me or whatever. I just think it feels priced on a fair level. And of course there's potential, but there's potential in both directions, up and down. And I want to pick the stocks where I honestly and strongly I'm convinced about that the upside potential is way stronger than the downside potential. Yeah. So that's my final statement when we talk about PayPal. Again, please make your own evaluation, and that's no advice over here. You know, I just tried to give you a little bit more color to the stock and maybe activate some new perspectives, some new thoughts about it. Yeah. And give you just a little bit, just a different opinion, let's say it like this, or something what not everyone is stating out there. And maybe you think about, you've heard now there's those 6 aspects, and you think, okay, what Julian from A Sense of Capital told, maybe it's not complete nonsense, but I see it at still a little bit different, and I see the chances way higher than the risk or whatever. Yeah, that's absolutely fine, you know. So there's, as I mentioned, there's no right or wrong. Make your own evaluation. It's your own money, and therefore you need to decide by your own, because it's just your life and your future, of course. And I just try to bring something here on the surface, do some self-reflection, and just show you what was going on in my mind, what kind of parameters I considered at the evaluation. Of course, that are not all of them. I've always some calculations going on, for instance, but these are some aspects I've stumbled a few times across them, and a lot of times people talk very bullish about those aspects, and I think not all of them, or you can easily take positive and just tell, it's a great steal and you definitely should buy it. So feel free again to subscribe, to be one of the first who subscribed and support me here, even if some trouble was going on with the technique, and it's getting freakingly warm here. So I definitely, as I mentioned, need to somehow improve my setup, my technical setup over here. So I already thought actually to do this as well for the winter times, because I don't want to get a cold while I'm streaming, you know. But I will find a solution for sure. Thank you very much for having you in, you know. So I'm very happy that you joined. If you joined, I can't see the numbers at the moment. I even switched off the chat. So because I can't at the moment see the chat, as I mentioned, I will step up my game a little bit here as well in the future. And it's comment, please, subscribe if you like the stream. And stay tuned for future content from A Sense of Capital and from me. And see you next time. All the best.